This video is brought to you by Manscaped. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with their most precious assets. Get 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the offer code SKILLUP at manscaped.com. Saints Row. This is not good. If you watch my preview of the game, you will know that I went in with an open mind. Initially excited about the prospect of a Saints Row reboot, but that excitement was tempered by that preview window. I walked out thinking that this is probably going to be fine. Basically, I was expecting something pretty average. I didn't think I'd love it, but I didn't think I'd hate it. I really was not expecting something so aggressively bad in almost every aspect. Core gameplay, mission design, structure, technical polish, and in particular, narrative. The writing in this game is horrifically bad, and I can't remember the last time I played a game this badly written, for real. Hard to know where to start with this one, but I think one starting point is to say that I don't think Deep Silver Volition were trying to pull the wool over our eyes with this one. I don't think they overhyped this, they didn't promise anything that wasn't delivered, they provided a lot of transparency in the lead up with gameplay trailers, a hands-on preview window, and a review window. As I said in my preview, I really value that because a lot of publishers and developers don't play it that way, and I think I'd be talking about this game in a very different way had Deep Silver Volition been more cagey in their marketing, or crammed in a bullshit cash shop with XP boosters and currency packs and all the shit that pisses us off in a bunch of other titles. So full credit for that, but none of that changes the fact that this is a bad game, and I really regret the time I spent with it. To call this a reboot would be such a misnomer, because Saints Row 2022 is completely stuck in the past. This is the oldest feeling game I have played in years, and I play boomer shooters. This is a campaign that is 10 to 15 hours of Xbox 360 era third-person corridor shooting, and it's an open world so lifeless that it's almost as though the past 20 years of open world design doesn't exist. The technical state of this product is very, very bad, and this needed at least 6 months to iron out all of the graphical, audio, gameplay, and mission progress affecting bugs I encountered. More than that though, this game needed like another 12 months of playtesting because Saints Row is full of ideas that could have been okay, but each of them have one or more critical flaws that really make them awful, and more playtesting would have found those things so they could have been sanded back. But the writing side of this equation, there's no salvaging that. Characters, narrative, plot, pacing, antagonists, it's a complete disaster. Had this game an actual plot, or had the moment-to-moment dialogue not been so cringe-inducing, I might have been able to go along with this. But when the reward for really repetitive, buggy gameplay are these painful cutscenes that make your eyes roll every single time, that's the thing that makes you go, oh man, I can't do this. And in fact, I almost quit this game about 2/3 of the way through because I was just like, I can't do this anymore. But I kept going for completeness sake, and yeah, the ending managed to be even worse than I could have anticipated. Oh god. Alright, so let's talk about this properly. Here's why I don't recommend Saints Row. We'll talk technical first. I reviewed Saints Row on PC on an RTX 2080 Ti and AMD Ryzen 3700X. I played at 1440p max settings across the board, including max settings ray tracing. The one good thing I will say about Saints Row is that it runs pretty damn well. Most of the time, I was averaging around 80 FPS when cruising around the city. When action would get really thick, that would drop to a floor of around 60, generally speaking. 98% of my experience was that. There were a few minor instances, usually localized to the desert locations, where frame rate would chug down to as low as 40 FPS, but like I said, that was rare, and my overall experience with Saints Row is that it's a well-optimized PC port, at least on my hardware. The preview build, which I played on a laptop, was similarly good. Now, not to take away from that, because a well-optimized PC port is rarer than you might think, but I would hope it runs well, because Saints Row doesn't look particularly great. This is a title that is also shipping to PS4 and Xbox One, and rather than making a current-gen looking game, and then scaling it back, Volition essentially made a last-gen looking game, and then made it playable across all platforms. Characters lack detail, textures are extremely flat, and lighting is completely incapable of creating depth within a scene. The lighting in this game is essentially binary, like it's on or it's off, and while that's somewhat masked by the heavy use of high contrast neon outside, internal spaces really suffer. You do want some highlights somewhere to draw your eye towards some environmental detail, and that just never happens. Every space seems to meld together in your mind as a result. I really can't recall any beautiful, well-lit scene in this game that wasn't entirely propped up by neon piping and glow sticks. That's a neat segue into a broader problem with Santo Alesso, which is that the city really really lacks visual distinctiveness. It is subdivided into areas, low-rise, mixed industrial, high-rise downtown, a Beverly Hills type zone, a fairly large expanse of desert encircling everything. The thing is though, while all these areas look different, they never look interesting. Just as I can't recall a beautifully lit internal scene, I really struggle to recall standout landmarks, boroughs, precincts, buildings, anything. Volition have built a set of high-rises that are just a set of high-rises. They've built low-rises that are just a bunch of buildings and turnpikes. And they built a desert that really is just a desert. Far more terminal than how last-gen the graphics might look is the fact that the overall art design of Santo Alesso leaves no mark on you whatsoever. One thing that makes these spaces even more difficult to take in is pop-in. If you've watched me for a while, you'd know that I'm pretty chill when it comes to this sort of stuff. I don't really care that much if a game has pop-in, unless it's directly affecting the game, and I think this is directly affecting the game. Pop-in in Saints Row is so common and so noticeable that it becomes this permanent distraction when you're exploring the city. Buildings, signage, cars, people, trees, ground clutter, texture detail, all of it is aggressively popping in all the time, so rather than take in the sights of the city, your eye is constantly drawn to this pop-in since it's constantly flashing up before you. And I will remind you that this was on max settings. I mean, if this was on low draw distance setting, I'd be like, yeah, fair enough. If this game looked incredibly detailed with amazing lighting, I'd be like, okay, well that's the trade-off. But you've got a game that looks as basic as this, while also having this terrible pop-in, and with no option to improve it, even on high-end systems, and that sucks. This is made even worse by the fact that Santo Alesso feels eerily empty, something I'll talk more about later, but Santo Alesso is not teeming with foot traffic, or car traffic, or dynamic events, or anything. It always feels like a ghost town. Spider-Man on PC had vastly more going on the ground than Saints Row does, and you're not even meant to be on the ground very much in Spider-Man. Again, I could understand this looking more basic or having these draw distances if there was a lot going on, but there isn't, so all of this combines to make Saints Row look very, very last gen, an impression that is more than mirrored in its gameplay. Before we talk about that though, we really need to talk about the bugs. This is brutal, so just for context, I had 3 separate reviewers reach out to me during the review window and be like, hey man, are you finding Saints Row really buggy? That is rare and concerning, because it told me that the experience I was having was likely a very common experience. The first bug I encountered was at startup, and it was a persistent bug I encountered whenever I opened the game. It gave me some random error about Epic Game Store permission or some shit. There were no permissions to accept, but it kept saying to accept permissions. The way I fixed this was just repeatedly opening and closing it, and then it eventually would work, so I had to spend 10 minutes clicking this button every time I restarted the game. Audio in this game is very buggy. Certain sound effects would bug out either during gameplay or in cutscenes like this. Some effects would cue and cut off really suddenly like this.
That's how it's done.
The biggest audio issue though is that the soundscape in this game just feels really flat. Scenes that feel like they should have music don't, and a lot of sound effects really lack impact. I mean, this scene is a perfect example of both of those things, where I'm going through this big action sequence with no music, and my tactical shotgun sounds like it's shooting soggy paintballs. Hit registration during combat is very annoying because enemies will often become immune when they enter certain animations. Here's an example. Often certain mechanics just don't work. Here I am desperately spamming the finisher button, but it's just not doing anything for no reason at all. This bug happens a lot. One time I was doing a mission and the cops were spawning in and I had to kill them. Okay, fair enough. After 2 waves of cops, a third spawns in and I couldn't find them. Eventually, I did. They were up here on the overpass. The great thing about where they spawned is that I couldn't shoot them. If I ran towards either end of the overpass, the mission would declare it out of bounds and I would have failed. Eventually, I did kill them with some cheesy head glitch bullshit, but god, I was very mad here. This game is littered with visual bugs. Some of them are minor, like this. Some of them occur in cutscenes, like this disappearing waffle. That's a minor one though. The next one is a massive spoiler, so I want to give a really clear warning. It's from one of the most pivotal moments in the entire game, and I'm only showing it to you because it is so bad, and it really shows just how not ready this game is for launch. To have a moment like this play out this way. If you're going to play this game, do not watch this. Please skip to the timestamp on screen. I will give you a second to do that. Okay, timestamp's there. Alright, here we go. This is the final shootout with one of the central characters in the game. Here's how it goes down. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about when I say that visual glitches are more than just minor inconveniences during cutscenes. Visual glitches also have an impact on actual gameplay. The most regular and the most fucking annoying one is that red enemy health bars will often flash yellow. Now this is a very big deal because yellow bar enemies are priorities. They have more health and you can't use your finisher on them. So seeing a yellow bar enemy is important. You pay attention to that because the game is built around them. And yet, owing to a bug, red enemy health bars will often just flicker yellow for a split second, and you're constantly checking these targets only to find that they were not yellow at all and the game is just wasting your time. This happens in like 50% of the combat encounters. It's so annoying, and while this game is playable despite this, I would absolutely classify this as a game-breaking bug. It's that disruptive. There is a persistent glitch when you enter flying vehicles. For some reason, the camera zooms in an absurd amount like this. You can't change that, so you then have to just get out of the vehicle. That's fine, except for this mission, where it occurred again and I couldn't get out of the vehicle because it was a mission sequence, and restarting the checkpoint wouldn't fix it, and I was 20 minutes deep into this mission. I did not want to restart my game and have to do all of that all over again, since checkpoint progress isn't saved when you close your game. So I had to do the rest of the mission like this. It was truly terrible.
Done and dusted.
Sometimes you can't fucking do anything other than move because all of the inputs are disabled. This happened to me on more than one occasion, but twice during a mission, and both times I had to restart the mission I was on because reloading the checkpoint didn't fix it. In this one example, I was already like 15 minutes deep on this mission. I was so pissed off when this happened that when it did, that's when I chose to quit Saints Row. I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. But then I came back as, like I said, completeness sake. But I was very, very done with Saints Row in this moment. More fundamentally, controls are, I don't want to say bugged, but they feel bugged. So using a controller to aim in this game feels terrible. And I really couldn't understand why until this moment, when I was standing at a shooting range trying to track targets. I noticed that the cursor would move at different speeds even when I was inputting identical movement inputs. This is me moving my analog stick left and right over and over again, same pace each time. Sometimes you'll see that it's really fast, and sometimes it's really slow. There's no explanation for why that changes, but imagine trying to aim with that. That's what I did for 15 hours, and it was awful. This commentary on the state of the controls was shared by a number of people during the preview cycle, so I know I'm not alone in this. Overall, Saints Row is unattractive to look at, both in terms of its technical fundamentals and its artistic design. It feels overly held back by last-gen hardware, without any effort put in to take advantage of current-gen consoles and GPUs. Santo Alesso lacks flourish and personality, and it feels like a ghost town. The game itself is buggy as hell, with a wide variety of immersion, mission, and game-breaking bugs. If you are ever planning on playing Saints Row, I strongly recommend holding off for at least 6 to 12 months, as Volition will need at least that length of time to properly fix everything that's broken here.
The Saints. We call ourselves the Saints.
Saints Row is a new start for the franchise, at least narratively. The old crew from games past are gone, and in their stead we have these people. We'll talk more about them soon, but let's talk about you first. You do get to create your own boss in Saints Row's very flexible character creation tool. There are no limits, and I went wild. I decided that my boss would essentially be the Wicked Witch of the West, which seemed like a good idea at the time, but then it resulted in scenes like this.
I can tell you love it.
Okay, I don't have to love it. I have to pay my student loans.
Amen.
Realizing that it would be absolutely impossible to take any part of this game's narrative seriously if I played a character that looks like this, I quickly reverted to a more traditional looking character, but retained the British accent. Not a great choice. It's pretty rare to find bad voice work in games these days, I think. The standard is so much higher than it was even 5 years ago. This voice acting is not good. The character sounds ridiculously out of place in every scene. I actually don't think it's the voice actress's fault, by the way. It's more the writing and the direction. I spoke to my friend Lucy James about this, and she said it sounds like this person belongs in a different video game, and she was totally spot on.
Man, I'd hate to be the idols right now. Everyone at that party is probably gonna get killed.
Sucks to be Kevin Eli.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
shit.
gotta go.
So with the old crew gone, let's meet their replacements. This is Nina. She's an art history major who wants to break into the art curation scene, but she's finding it tough, so she's also a member of a murderous criminal gang called Los Panteros. This is Kev. He substitutes not wearing a shirt for a personality. He wants to be a DJ, or he is a DJ, but he's also part of a criminal gang called the Idols who want to overthrow capitalism while wearing Daft Punk helmets and throwing cool dance parties in the desert. And this is Eli. He wears a bow tie, he doesn't like to shoot people, he's really smart, and he listens to self-help audiobooks a lot. So as I mentioned in the preview, I went in with an open mind with these characters. They aren't the typical badass crime people who are badasses and who do crimes. They're younger, and they're all really nice people. Like, they'd help an old lady cross the street. And they're educated hipster nerds who probably take photos of their acai bowl and spiced chai latte breakfast to post on Instagram. For the record, I don't think the problem with these characters is their starting point. There's lots of ways to do anti-heroes, from Tony Soprano to Harley Quinn to Walter White to Wario. There would have been a path forward for each of these characters to make them cool and badass and really make you feel like you're hanging out with a group of dangerous, ruthless, winner-takes-all criminal entrepreneurs. But if such a path exists, Saints Row writers certainly didn't find it. These characters are so awful, hollow, facile, sock puppets. There is nothing to them, they have no emotional depth, no real personality beyond their surface level gimmick, no wisdom, no humor, nothing. They are the rough sketch that an artist might pen in a brainstorming session, so one-dimensional and superficial that you wouldn't even call them a draft. And then the writers try to awkwardly fill these scarecrows with some straw, and it always comes off so ridiculous. Like, there's this one mission where Kevin asks you to run around to get him a Happy Meal toy, and you're like, okay, well that's kind of dumb, but whatever, let's go with it. And eventually he's like, oh, well, I was an orphan and I never got one at the orphanage. And at the end of the mission, you steal a bunch of them after murdering like 50 people, and then this exchange happens.
There. You are now the proud owner of 500 limited edition Mecha Burgers.
Nah, I just want one. And maybe sometime you could help me bring the rest down to the county orphanage?
Absolutely.
Now listen, I have feelings, I'm not made of stone, but my dude, you are a mass murderer! By this point, Kevin has already killed thousands of people. You think none of them had kids? You know how many orphans you put in that fucking orphanage? There's other examples like this where the game is so desperate to show the sensitive side of these characters as a means of giving them some backstory, some depth, but it comes off as the most ridiculous, supercharged ludonarrative dissonance ever, like Uncharted, if it sucked. And that's the thing, right? You still loved Nate and felt his feels even though he was a mass murderer as well, because the character and the narrative has been properly built to reconcile all of these narrative tensions or to help you conveniently forget them. But here, these characters oscillate so wildly and so regularly between concerned, moralizing, emotionally needy influences to cold-blooded, sociopathic mass murderers that it's impossible to take either side of that equation seriously. This is one scene where a lawyer delivers you some court papers.
Oh my God, he's right.
Of course I'm right. I wrote the fine print myself.
An unarmed civilian, gunned down in cold blood, and this is just a few minutes after this scene.
Hey, we had a big win today. We should do something irresponsible to celebrate.
What do you have in mind?
Oh, I don't know, the money fight!
This is one of the many examples of the game trying to show some affection between the group members. There's a lot of these, and they are all this goofy. Part of what I spoke about in my preview is that you never find out how these four people came together. You are not properly introduced to any of these characters, and so this familiarity that you see, it's annoying because it's almost like the game kind of assumes that you already like these people and want to hang out with them when you do not. Shifting to a new cast of characters who are so different from the previous game without giving any of those characters a proper introduction was a very bad call, and the game never recovers from it. Outside of these characters, the game's overall tone is weird. I think it's probably best demonstrated by this speech, which seems to indicate that the Saints are about overcoming the constraints imposed by middle managers or something.
Life is hard enough without having to deal with middle managers, with no discernible talent telling you how to do your job. Without having to deal with assholes who have had every opportunity handed to them, but never had to fucking work for a single one of them.
This is one of the game's awkward narrative through lines. The idea that the Saints exist as a response to student loans and rent and millennials being told to wait their turn. Again, there would have been a way to properly interrogate or satirize these things within the context of this game, but like Eli's bow tie, it's just window dressing as a stand-in for substance. Other than the briefest, most fleeting references to things like late-stage capitalism or corporate greed, there's nothing insightful or humorous said on these subjects. I'm not expecting Saints Row to be Pulitzer Prize-winning literature. I'm not expecting it to win 4th place at the local book club's quarterly literary slam. But if you're going to brush up against these subjects, then at least do something with them. The overall narrative of this game is no better. It lacks clear plot with a beginning, middle, and end. It doesn't have distinct acts punctuated with notable events. None of the characters have personal arcs within the overall storyline. There are some antagonists, sort of, but only one of them is properly introduced. The others are just kind of there, and you don't even know you're about to bring them down until it happens. I really genuinely never knew at any point where I might be in the overall storyline of this game, because in the absence of clear goals, clear villains, and clear acts, the whole thing feels so adrift. When I got to the last mission, I was like, oh, last mission. Okay, sure. I didn't see that coming because the story was never building to anything in a coherent way. So this is a really damning assessment of this stuff, but it all really gets to you because it's so relentless. Every single mission is the same concoction of annoying characters spouting bad dialogue while you do something that doesn't clearly fit into a bigger picture because there is no bigger picture. Like, listen to this.
This is gonna be an epic statement. That yacht's guarded AF.
Dude, did you just say AF?
Yeah, an abbreviation.
First, we fucking swear all the time. Second, it's only an abbreviation when texting. AF, as fuck, same number of syllables.
Okay, fine. This is gonna be an epic statement because that yacht is guarded as fuck.
And every bleeding one of them is going to learn what happens when you try to blow up a saint.
Hells yeah!
Now, imagine having to listen to that for 15 or more hours. That is Saints Row. This has already been pretty brutal on both a technical and writing front. I wish I had better news for you on the gameplay side of things, but I do not. As one-note and one-dimensional as Saints Row's characters are, so too is its open-world design, structure, mission design, and open-world gameplay. I've already spoken briefly about how lifeless Santo Alesso feels as you move through it. This is reflected in how it plays as well. Santo Alesso is completely absent any sort of dynamic event that might interrupt your regular thoroughfare. It's a city of rival gangs, but zero rival gang fights. It's a city of hustlers, but nothing of note has ever taken place on the sidewalk that might grab your attention. There aren't random police car chases, or bank heists, or carjackings, or street races. Nothing goes on in the streets of Santo Alesso other than what you make happen. So, if there's nothing dynamic going on, what about the scripted events that take place at map markers? Well, there are a lot of map markers, sure. Some of them involve running around to dumpsters and clicking on them so you can find some trash in the dumpster. Sometimes pallets of drugs are left on the street and you just collect them by clicking on them. There are these history of Santo Alesso things that you can find, which make you stand and listen to boring exposition for 30 seconds, and you do that 5 times and then you get some cash.
Did you know? The Grand Prix is a celebration of innovation, ingenuity, and industry.
There are side hustles like being a getaway driver, for example, or flying a wingsuit around town for a bit. They're fine, but they're really just less interesting versions of the same stuff you do in the main missions, and they're pretty skippable. The headline feature of the open world is the criminal empire stuff. After a few hours, you get access to this map that lets you set up fronts to generate cash. Each one of them is essentially a hub for side quests, where you steal things as a repo driver, or you jack cars for a chop shop, or you jump in front of traffic for insurance money. When I encountered these things, I really imagined that each one would be its own unique questline with different types of missions to do. That is not it. Each one represents one type of mission that you have to do multiple times. So I had to steal a car, cool, and then I had to steal 10 more cars. Each time it was the same. I would just drive over to it, I would press a button and get in it, I would start driving, the police or some gang members would suddenly appear, they'd follow me all the way home, I would park the car, and that was it. Every single time, 10 times. Same goes for the insurance thing. The first time you do this, it's pretty fun. Then you need to do it 6 more times. It's always exactly the same, just at a different intersection. Furthermore, to progress the main story, you need to complete at least 2 of these criminal ventures. So at one point, you find yourself stealing 10 cars in a row, which took like an hour to do. And then you're bouncing in front of traffic 6 times in a row, which took nearly another hour to do. Given how repetitive these ventures are, building this stuff into the main campaign was a bad idea, and it really took the fun out of these things. Though in the case of robbing cars and just driving them somewhere, there wasn't that much fun to begin with. That brings us to the main missions. This was the part of the game I was probably most pissed off with. There is an astounding lack of imagination with regards to mission variety here. 98% of the missions you do are all drive here, oh shit, some bad guys appeared, let's shoot them. You shoot them and that's the mission. Already I can hear people being like, well, you could say the same of Halo. Yeah, you could, but you know what? Halo's good, and this is not. This is really shitty third-person shooting that would have felt dated at the tail end of the PS3 era. Like I said in my preview, you can't even switch shoulder perspective. There is no proper melee combat system. The weapons are as bog standard as you can get, and when they try and get funky with their design, they become almost unusable for how clunky they are. With core gameplay this week, you really need to have interesting mission design, and that is so absent here that it's alarming. There's always some narrative window dressing to get you to a place, but when you get there, it's just shooting people or driving a car, or shooting people when driving a car, or driving a car while your buddies shoot people, like this riveting sequence.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Oh my god, there's so many of them!
But come on, chill up. Is it really that bad? Yes, it definitely is. I feel like Far Cry is a really important point of comparison here because Far Cry gets a lot of shit for being pretty played out these days. Like, we've seen this formula since Far Cry 3, it's time to update it, etc. That commentary is accurate, but I do think it doesn't give enough credit to just how much work goes into Far Cry's mission design, encounter design, and core combat. All of those things in Far Cry are excellent. Far Cry Sandbox is so strong that it's able to regularly produce action that looks pre-scripted when it's not. And when you combine that with Far Cry's innovative mission design, you often get fantastic sequences that few games can match. If the best moments in a Far Cry mission can hit 8 or 9 or 10 out of 10 in terms of spectacle and intensity while still remaining fully playable, then the best Saints Row ever produces is like a 2 or 3, tops. The core gameplay mechanics are so weak that they will leave you fixated on how underbaked and repetitive all of the mission design is. Outside of everything I've discussed here, there are a lot of little features peppered throughout Saints Row. There's the ability to customize every car in great detail. Same with every weapon. Both weapons and vehicles have signature abilities that are unlocked after completing certain challenges. Want your car to be able to do barrel rolls? There's a signature ability for that. You can decorate your base. I like to put porta potties everywhere. There's the ability to summon your companions to you in the open world. There's a bounty app allowing you to track wanted targets for some quick cash. There's so much, to be honest, and in any other number of games, it would be really impressive. But here, I kind of wish this stuff didn't exist because obviously a huge amount of effort went into creating it, and that effort could have been directed towards fixing this game's core issues. Bugs is the most obvious and immediate one. This game needed fewer boondoggles and more time in the oven to make it actually playable. It needed a complete rethinking of its open world design philosophy to bring it into the modern era. It needed a completely different cast of characters and an entirely new script. It needed way more diversity in terms of mission design, and it needed significant renovations to its core combat mechanics. I don't like being this brutal, but this is a very poor title and I absolutely do not recommend it. Gentlemen, have you heard the good word? It's smooth sack summer, at least for you Europeans and Americans. Down here in Australia, it's still wild and wiry winter, and believe me, you don't want any screenshots of that. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're scaped from pubes to bum with Manscape, the leader in below-the-belt grooming. If you are just beginning your intimate grooming journey, then can I recommend the Performance Package 4.0, the latest and greatest offering from Manscape, and one that's sure to meet both your needs and the needs of people meeting your other needs. Inside this package, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose trimmer, the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, the Crop Reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to keep it all in one place. First off, that Lawnmower 4.0, Manscaped says it's the greatest ball trimmer ever invented. And since they're pretty much the only entity who specializes in trimming balls, I'm inclined to believe them. These people, no balls. Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents, thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof, and it also has a 400K LED spotlight in case you need a more precise shave. Ever wanted to spotlight your junk? Well, now you can. Please use responsibly. You thought that was good, but how about taking your grooming game to the next level? The Performance Pack 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and provides proprietary skin-safe technology which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate nose holes. Their Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and Crop Reviver Ball Toner will change the way you approach your hygiene routine. Manscaped say, quote, "Your balls will thank you," end quote. Now, I don't know about you, but my balls have never thanked me for anything, and so I really hope these products deliver because I am sick and tired of my ungrateful balls. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts in their performance pack, the Manscaped boxers and the Shed travel bag. You can wear that t-shirt around so people will know. They'll nudge their friends and point at you and they'll be like, "Hey, see that guy over there?" And the other person will say, "Yeah." And the other person will say, "He shaves his balls." And then the other person will say, "Nice." It's time to take care down there, so go to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with the offer code SKILLUP at manscaped.com. That's 20% with free shipping at manscaped.com using offer code SKILLUP. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.